Hi, welcome to The Views from the Valley, your roundup of the news here in the United States, coming to you from the v3.co.uk offices in San Francisco. With me as ever, Shaun Nichols. Hi, Shaun.
Hi, Ian.
Right, okay, first off, an unlikely alliance, Apple and Oracle. Tell us about it.
Yeah, this is actually a deal that kind of dates back to the days of Sun, but basically Apple has struck a deal with Oracle to kind of turn over a lot of the development and maintenance of the Java platform. So the Java development kit is going to become part of the OpenJDK project. So any sort of Mac OS X development tools, a lot of those are going to be handed over to Apple, or handed over by Apple to Oracle as open source. Additionally, the Java, the JRE, the next version of that, is going to be done through Oracle. Apple's going to do the current version. I think the current version is 6. I believe it's still going to be distributed for Snow Leopard and for Lion, which is the upcoming. But everything after that, version 7 and on, is now going to be Oracle's responsibility.
Oracle doesn't have, well, it's having some ructions, to put it politely, with the open source community at the moment. I mean, do you trust them with this?
As much as I would trust them with the rest of Java, I mean, essentially this is something that, Sun's been doing a lot of for other operating systems. They kind of they did the JRE themselves. Apple was kind of off that, said, you know what, no, we'd rather do this in-house, rather work on our own components. So, I mean, as far as Apple specifically goes, I don't see Oracle's policies really affecting that, one way or the other, as much as it would the whole JDK project, really.
Okay, interesting. Well, we've also had Apple in the news yesterday because, this morning, but yesterday evening, the head of Adobe has been speaking at the Web 2.0 conference and said that his company is at war with Apple, which... well, we kind of guessed it, but it's very unlikely to hear a chief executive actually say it out loud. His argument is basically Apple is a closed system which wants to control everything. Adobe and Flash are open systems. And, they're fighting for the developer mindset. I've got to say, it's a bit over-the-top language. I mean, technically all tech firms are at war with each other at one level. But the real animus that's being shown here, I mean... what with also the Adobe being taken over by Microsoft rumours as well, Adobe coming out with some very strange statements. I mean, what's your take? Do you think...
I don't know. I mean, it's interesting because it is something where I kind of want to get your thoughts on it too, because it just seems unusual given how close Adobe was with Apple for so many years. How they worked.
They made each other.
And now to them, be really. Admittedly going to war over this. I mean, it seems kind of interesting progression. I don't know. I mean,
it's. I have to say, it is. I mean, when you look at the company's long history together, at one stage, Apple was seriously considering buying Adobe, and then at another stage, Adobe was almost considering buying Apple, such has been the vicissitudes of the share price. But I don't know. I think there's an awful lot of sound and fury signifying nothing going on this one. But I think Adobe genuinely are worried that Apple took such a hard line against Flash. And it has to be said, actually, when he made his comments, he did say Flash with hardware acceleration won't hurt your battery life, which is a bit of a come down from earlier statements. So, I think Adobe is worried because Flash is reaching... what many people consider to be the end of its useful lifespan with the introduction of HTML5, although they do point out that Flash can do things that HTML5 can't, but not as many as they used to.
Yeah, and maybe not as much as, say, HTML5 with JavaScript or something like that.
Exactly, with some plugins. So, I mean, their main Flash platform is fighting for relevance. The rest of their product line... well, it isn't doing badly, but it isn't doing stellarly well.
I think that's one thing. No matter how bad it gets between
you'll always
Apple and Adobe. The Creative Suite, the whole Creative Suite bundle. I mean, Apple does kind of do some of its own competitors.
But Adobe have specialised, they've got the breadth of knowledge. That is going to remain core for them. But they're going to find themselves in the same position that Apple was in the mid-1990s, where the only people using their kit were the design professionals, and everyone else was just, and the enthusiasts. So we'll see. Steve Jobs is not a person to go to war with, it's got to be said, although he does seem to pick a few fights, so we'll see how this develops. Now, obviously, being Internet News site, we're very interested on trends and SEO and those sort of things. Now, you've been covering an interesting new piece of a new website, which could be very heavy.
It's interesting. Yahoo is actually pitching a beta version of a new platform called Clues. Essentially, this is something similar to Google Trends, but I think in some ways it goes beyond that. Instead, you've got things like the popular search terms, the queries, that sort of thing. But they also go into a little more detail and break things down by different demographics, by different locations, so you can see what are the most popular terms in what area, sort of thing.
Yeah, as a market research tool, it struck me as being very good indeed.
It kind of strikes me as both good and a little bit scary in that, there's great market potential, but I think, the readers seen that, we've shown videos of this, that a savvy hacker, security experts say within a matter of minutes you can mine these different tools or things and produce incredibly believable, authentic, and really very, very effective social engineering attacks. You can go in and say, okay, these are the most popular terms right now. These are most popular. Well, okay, but these are most popular in this region right now. These users are most likely to be up. Now I can say I know which terms are most popular right now. I know who's searching them. I know where they're searching them. Suddenly I can make a web page that's very, very detailed and possibly a whole lot more effective at getting people infected than just your generic run-of-the-mill.
I agree with you. Take today, for example. I woke up to the news that the Prince had got married to his his delightful blushing bride, who's been hanging around for him for 9 years, and he really, really should have got on the stage earlier. But still, that's another matter. But I should imagine we're going to see spammers and hackers using exactly this kind of tool to see, right, okay, that's trending high at the moment. Let's whack out a quick unseen pictures of royal engagement party or something, and boom, there's your uncle.
Well, yeah, and it's already being done, is the thing. You have things like the Zeus malware, of course. We've had all sorts of reports about that recently, and there's plenty of other ones. The Storm botnet was notorious for using those exact tactics, taking popular search terms, popular dates and times, and this...
Well, in fact, that's what it was named for after the first incidents when we had European storms which killed a few people. So, we shall have to see. As I say, a useful tool for business, nevertheless. And then finally, we've been if you've been covering the mobile sphere from a journalistic standpoint, then companies like Nokia have been talking about replacing your wallet with your mobile phone for, I think the first briefing I had on this was about 12 years ago. And it does seem, however, that we're going to get some movement. T-Mobile, Verizon, and AT&T have got together in the US, and that's a massive section of the market. They're the three of the biggest players in the market. And so they're forming a new group called ISIS, which is going to use near-field communications to allow you to use your phone as a wallet. Basically get it within 4 inches of a reader, and you'll be able to make payments just as you can with a credit card. Barclaycard are coming on board with this. They say they're going to roll out to specific geographical locations, although at the moment it does just seem to be a US concern. I have to say, there seems to be momentum building around this. Eric Schmidt yesterday was talking about how Google, the next version of Android, is going to be supporting near-field communications payment systems. Apple has just in August, hired the guy who set up PayPal Mobile, and it's rumoured that the iPhone 5 is going to have this sort of thing. Now, as a smartphone user, would you really want to use it as a wallet?
The smartphone user in me is pretty intrigued by this. The security correspondent in me, once again, is
going,
a little terrified, because there's all sorts of... But, then again, to put everything in perspective, all this, yes, somebody could possibly, pick up, your phone, that sort of thing, but... Aren't you basically taking the same risk every time you hand your credit card off to a complete stranger at a restaurant?
Yep, who then takes it out of sight and then brings it back to you.
Exactly. So, in some sense, I think some of the risks about these things, because they're new, because they're unknown, people are going to make a big deal out of it. But then again, in everyday situations, we're at a lot of risk anyways.
Well, true. From an IT security perspective, it does mean that IT managers are going to have to lock down handsets a lot more carefully. And if you're not already using it, you have remote wipe software on there, because you really just need to be able to, if it's lost, immediately hit a button, kill the entire thing dead.
Well, and I guess going back to as far as a business perspective, it is interesting, and I'm interested to see how, say, PayPal gets on this first off, and then how some of the major banks, some of the major credit card companies, if they go with this project, or if there's another project that they go with, are we going to have a HD DVD, Blu-ray type of competing standards here?
Well, certainly, and also from a retailer's perspective, they've got to know who to sign up for, because they're presumably going to have to make a certain amount of investment in equipment itself. The security aspect also worried me, but I'm fairly absent-minded, and I've lost a couple of phones in my time, and if you lose that, no cash or credit card backup, then you really are up a certain creek. But yeah, I mean, early days yet, but it is looking like market momentum is getting behind this. So if you're in a situation where you can benefit from this, both as a user, but more importantly, I think, from a retail or from a simple corporate perspective, then it's worth looking into. But we'll keep you an eye on this and other stories, which you can read about at www.v3.co.uk.